The Cleveland Browns have officially entered their self-sabotage era. Despite rookie quarterback Shedeur Sanders lighting up training camp like it's his personal highlight reel, Browns owner Jimmy Haslam seems hell-bent on pushing him out the door. Yes, that's Shedeur Sanders, Deion's son, draft underdog turned camp MVP, and the quarterback currently out throwing every other arm on Cleveland's roster. And yes, that Jimmy Haslam, the same man who's now fueling trade rumors like he's leaking oil. With GM Andrew Berry backing Sanders as the future of the franchise and the New Orleans Saints foaming at the mouth after their own quarterback disaster, what we're watching unfold isn't just a QB controversy. It's a franchise identity crisis in real time. Let's back it up. Shedeur Sanders arrived in Cleveland with more baggage than a Kardashian on vacation. Some doubted if he could make the jump to the NFL, if his stats at Colorado would just flash and flare under his dad's spotlight. But then came training camp. And Shedeur didn't just show up, he showed out. We're talking flawless completions, leadership presence, and throws that made even the most jaded vets raise eyebrows. 9 for 9 with 2 touchdowns in one scrimmage. That's not just good. That's give this man first-team reps immediately good. Except he didn't get them. Instead of capitalizing on a red-hot rookie, the Browns' coaching staff has kept Sanders stuck behind more proven names. Players with longer resumes but shorter completion streaks. Players who don't have the same spark, poise, or crowd buzz. But what's truly wild is that the one person with the power to push Shedeur forward, owner Jimmy Haslam, is apparently the one pulling him back. Haslam's skepticism isn't just passive. Sources say he's been actively questioning whether Sanders was ever the right pick, even though GM Andrew Berry clearly saw something in him during the draft. Berry believed Sanders was the guy, the kind of quarterback who could usher in a new Browns era, one not defined by controversy, inconsistency, or yet another revolving door under center. But Haslam, he's not convinced. And when an NFL owner's not convinced, guess what happens? They start talking trades. Insiders leak that Haslam has already entertained the idea of moving Sanders, whether it's to make a point, flex his authority, or because he just doesn't see it. The result is the same. The entire quarterback room is now under a microscope, and Shedeur Sanders, despite being the best statistical performer in camp, is being treated like a second-tier option. Enter the New Orleans Saints, limping into training camp with an empty quarterback throne after Derek Carr's sudden retirement. Their attempted successor, rookie Tyler Shaw, has been, let's say, unimpressive. Wobbly throws, inconsistent decision-making, and a vibe that screams development project rather than opening day starter. The Saints, who passed on Sanders during the draft, are now publicly regretting it. With every bad Shaw throw, Shedeur's stock rises. And trust, New Orleans is watching. Rumors are flying that the Saints have reached out to the Browns front office, quietly asking what would take to pry Sanders loose. Normally, that would be a non-starter. Why on earth would you trade your most promising quarterback prospect before he even gets a real shot? But because Haslam won't get behind him, and Berry's voice isn't the loudest in the building, this is now a real conversation. To make it worse, the Browns locker room knows who the best QB on the field is. Teammates have praised Sanders for his composure, work ethic, and laser-accurate throws. Analysts are calling his camp performance one of the best among all rookie QBs league-wide. He's not just good for Cleveland. He's looking better than most of the guys picked ahead of him. And yet, here we are. Shedeur is still not getting first-team reps, and Haslam's trade whispers are getting louder. At this point, you have to ask, is this about football or ego? Because it sure looks like Haslam is more interested in making sure his voice is the one that dictates the franchise's future. If Sanders turns out to be Berry's success story, then Berry gets the credit. And that's not how power dynamics work in Cleveland. Haslam has a long history of micromanaging quarterback decisions, often to the team's detriment. And this feels like deja vu. Let's not forget, this is the same team that burned through over 30 quarterbacks in 20 years. The same team that's been rebuilding its future since the mid-2000s. And now they have a guy who's showing actual star potential. And their biggest concern is who picked him? You can't make this up. Meanwhile, Sanders keeps doing his thing. Quietly, professionally, and with the kind of maturity that makes you wonder who's actually the rookie in the room. He's not demanding a trade. He's not stirring up drama. He's just throwing dimes in camp and letting the chaos swirl around him. But make no mistake, he knows what's happening. Everyone does. If Cleveland trades him now, they're not just giving up on a quarterback. They're handing another team a franchise cornerstone on a silver platter. If Shedeur Sanders goes to New Orleans and starts lighting it up in black and gold, the Browns will be roasted for the next decade. This could be their Herschel Walker moment. Their weird one gave it away. And what happens if he stays? Do they actually give him a real shot to win the starting job? Or do they keep him buried behind quarterbacks with less upside just to prove a point? That's the tragedy here. Shedeur Sanders has done everything right. He's performed, he's led, he's stayed quiet amid the noise. And yet the decision about his future is being made in owners' suites, not on the field. Let's hand out a few imaginary awards while we're here. The Self-Destructive Franchise Energy Award goes, unsurprisingly, to the Cleveland Browns, still finding ways to fumble the bag even when the answer is staring them in the face. The could have had it all medal? That's already dangling around the neck of the New Orleans Saints front office, who watched Sanders fall and decided, nah, we're good. Oops. And the most likely to win MVP after being traded for a fourth-round pick trophy? Yeah, that one has Shedeur's name engraved on it already. Here's the thing. Every team has its internal politics, but the best-run franchises know how to keep that noise out of football decisions. What we're seeing in Cleveland isn't just a disagreement. It's a clash of identities. One side wants to build a future. The other side wants to control the narrative. So here we are. Trade rumors, internal leaks, ownership power plays, and a rookie quarterback quietly outperforming everyone while being treated like a trade chip. It's the kind of drama that makes you wonder if the Browns are cursed, or if they're just addicted to chaos. Either way, the clock is ticking. If the Browns don't make a real decision soon, a smart decision, they'll risk becoming the latest case study in how to ruin a good thing before it even starts. And if Shedeur ends up a Saint and torches Cleveland in a primetime game next season, well, don't say we didn't warn you. Let's be honest. This entire situation feels like a twisted sequel to the Browns' greatest hits of dysfunction. We've seen it before. From Johnny Manziel's implosion to Baker Mayfield's roller coaster to Deshaun Watson's controversial arrival, Cleveland has made a habit of turning every quarterback chapter into either a punchline or a cautionary tale. And now, they have Shedeur Sanders, clean slate, high ceiling, already earning locker room respect. And they're poised to write him out before the first page is even finished. So, how did we get here again? When Andrew Berry pushed for Sanders in the draft, it wasn't just a wild gamble. It was a calculated swing, an attempt to bring in a modern quarterback who could evolve with the team. Sanders checked all the boxes: football IQ, arm strength, mobility, pocket awareness, leadership. Sure, he wasn't a first-round pick, but that didn't matter to Berry. He saw the long game. And for a brief moment, it seemed like the Browns might actually play that long game. Then Haslam got involved. To understand this fully, you have to look at the power structure inside the Browns front office. It's not just a typical owner-GM-coach relationship. It's more like an executive tug-of-war, with Haslam frequently yanking the rope just to remind everyone who holds it. He's known for making impulsive decisions, overruling football minds, and treating the team like a passion project instead of professional operation. Which brings us back to Sanders. The whispers started early. Haslam didn't love the pick. Not because Sanders wasn't talented, but because it wasn't his guy. Sources say he was lukewarm at best and annoyed that Berry pulled the trigger without his enthusiastic blessing. And now, even as Sanders proves himself daily, Haslam is reportedly doubling down on that initial coldness, fueling trade talks as a way to assert his authority. And let's not pretend this is just business strategy. It's ego management in a franchise that's never quite figured out how to balance ambition with actual execution. Now, picture this. Inside camp, Shedeur is dicing up the second-team defense. He's more accurate than the veteran QBs. He's reading defenses faster. His footwork is tighter. He's throwing with confidence, commanding the huddle, and earning nods from wide receivers who play with far less promising signal callers. He's not just a feel-good story. He's outperforming the guys ahead of him. Yet every time he steps off the field, he's reminded that none of it might matter. There's no first-team nod, no press conference buzz. No indication from the coaching staff that he's in real contention. Just the awkward tension of knowing you're excelling, while the front office is reportedly packaging you like an Amazon Prime return. And meanwhile, the Saints are lurking after missing out on Sanders in the draft. Some say due to a last-minute front office veto. The Saints are now in quarterback panic mode. Tyler Shaw, while having his moments, hasn't inspired confidence. And after Carr's unexpected retirement, they've got a gaping leadership hole under center. That's why they're circling back to Cleveland, because watching Sanders thrive while their own guy flounders is a kind of instant regret that keeps execs up at night. You know what this is starting to look like? A quarterback custody battle. The GM wants to keep the kid and raise him into a star. The owner wants him out of the house. And the Saints are sitting outside in a minivan with snacks, ready to drive him off into the sunset. The fans? They're split. Some are calling for patience, saying Sanders should be groomed for a year before being thrown into the fire. Others are furious that the best-performing QB in camp isn't even getting a legitimate shot. But what unites them all is confusion. No one understands why a rookie playing this well is being dangled as trade bait. And that's what makes the situation so volatile. The longer Haslam drags this out, the more it becomes a distraction. Every day Sanders isn't given a shot, the questions get louder. Every leak about trade talks adds pressure. Every glowing camp report makes the front office look more disconnected. And every rough outing by another Browns QB makes the whole thing feel increasingly absurd. If this team lets Sanders walk, they won't just be losing a talented player. They'll be signaling once again that potential means nothing in Cleveland unless it fits the internal politics. That it's not about performance. It's about pedigree, power, and whether you have the right person backing you. What's wild is that Sanders isn't asking for any of this noise. He's not demanding a starting job. He's not going rogue on social media. He's keeping his head down and balling out. That makes it even worse, because the drama isn't coming from the player. It's entirely self-inflicted by the team. And if the Browns cave to Haslam's skepticism and ship Sanders off for a mid-round pick or some throwaway depth player, they'll deserve every second of the backlash. They'll deserve remember when montages when Sanders lights up the league elsewhere. They'll deserve the think pieces and the fan rage and the hindsight ridicule, because there's no excuse. Not this time. You don't get many chances to draft a guy like this and have him prove you right immediately. Most rookies struggle. Most need time. Sanders is already ahead of schedule. And instead of building around him, the Browns are hesitating, questioning, sabotaging. The irony? They might not even get fair value for him now. Teams know the Browns are in internal turmoil. That reduces leverage. And it means Cleveland could end up dealing a future starter, maybe a future star, for pennies on a dollar. That's how franchises implode. It's the kind of decision that sticks with a team for years. Just like when they let go of Jacoby Brissett after he was quietly stabilizing the locker room, or when they couldn't make up their mind between Baker and Case. This team has a history of overthinking, overreaching, and then wondering why nothing ever works out. The Browns finally have something real in Shedeur Sanders. And now, all eyes are on whether they're bold enough or just smart enough to see it through. The Saints are waiting. The locker room is watching. And the fans? They've seen this movie before. The question is, will it end the same way? Or will Cleveland finally learn from its own chaos and choose the future over the familiar failure? But knowing Cleveland, learning from failure has never exactly been their strong suit. If anything, they've turned stumbling into a team tradition. Every time it feels like they're on the cusp of something new, something smarter, more stable, they find a way to trip over their own ambition. And this Shedeur Sanders saga? It's shaping up to be yet another textbook case of the Browns doing what the Browns do best, complicating the uncomplicated. Let's make one thing crystal clear. Rookie quarterbacks don't usually show up and command this kind of attention. Even the most hyped first-round picks often struggle in camp. They throw picks. They panic under pressure. They make rookie mistakes because that's what rookies do. And fans, coaches, and owners all brace for that bumpy developmental curve. But Shedeur isn't following the script. Instead of looking like a work in progress, he's looked poised, precise, and frankly, more NFL ready than anyone expected this early. We're talking full field reads, audible adjustments, sideline throws on a rope. That's not just talent. That's preparation. That's quarterbacking. And yet, he's the one being discussed as expendable? Let's just call it. There's an underlying weirdness in how Sanders is being treated. Maybe it's a legacy thing. Being Deion's son comes with baggage. Maybe some decision makers think the hype is artificially inflated. Or maybe it's just classic NFL conservatism, where flashy rookies get sidelined unless they were picked in the top 5 and blessed by ownership. But whatever the reason, it doesn't hold up under the weight of what's happening on the field. Imagine being Shedeur Sanders right now. You've done everything asked of you. You came in with doubters, and you methodically silence them. You're outperforming quarterbacks, making 3 times your salary. You're earning the trust of the locker room. You're generating real buzz in national media. And instead of being elevated, you're overhearing your name in trade rumors like you're some disposable practice squad hopeful. That's not just frustrating, it's insulting. And while Sanders isn't the type to make public waves, the quiet part is still being said behind closed doors. You can bet there are players in that locker room wondering what message is being sent. If performance doesn't matter, what does? And if the guy giving them the best chance to win is being dangled for a mid-season pick, what does that say about the team's priorities? This kind of disconnect doesn't stay quiet for long. It festers, it breeds tension, and it creates the kind of internal rot that even the most well-meaning coaching staff can't fix with motivational speeches and team-building retreats. Because no matter how many padded practices you run or how many leadership seminars you host, nothing undercuts morale faster than watching the best man sit while politics plays out above him. And make no mistake, this is politics. Haslam's rumored insistence on shopping Sanders isn't rooted in football logic. It's about optics and power. It's about who gets credit for the next franchise quarterback. It's about reminding everyone who signs the checks. And it's about making sure that if Sanders does succeed, he does it on Haslam's terms, or not at all. It's the kind of behind-the-scenes posturing that derails good organizations. Not because one player is more important than the whole team, but because decisions start being made for the wrong reasons. You start prioritizing perception over performance, hierarchy over chemistry, and authority over results. And here's the tragic twist. If Sanders were on literally any other team with a functional owner-GM dynamic, he'd probably be trending toward QB1 by now. There's a quiet desperation in New Orleans right now. They know what they missed. They had a shot at Sanders in the draft and passed, banking on internal development and a safe, if uninspired, pick. But now that reality has hit, they're watching Cleveland mishandle a gem and they're licking their chops. If Haslam gets his way and Sanders ends up in the Big Easy, don't be shocked if he's starting by week 4. Don't be shocked if he thrives in a system that actually wants him. Because sometimes all a quarterback needs is trust and opportunity. And in Cleveland, he's getting neither. What makes this even more chaotic is the ripple effect. If Sanders is traded and lights it up elsewhere, how long before Andrew Berry is shown the door? How long before players start questioning whether this team can ever get out of its own way? How long before the fan base, already notorious for its emotional whiplash, reaches full meltdown mode? The clock is ticking, and everyone knows it. The media's already circling. Analysts are sharpening their takes. Former players are starting to ask why the best quarterback in Cleveland's camp is being treated like a 4-string placeholder. And the more the situation simmers, the more it turns into a slow-cooking scandal just waiting to boil over. Because here's the brutal reality. If you let a quarterback room become a battlefield for egos and ownership disputes, it poisons the whole operation. You don't just lose one guy. You lose direction. You lose identity. And eventually, you lose the locker room. This is where Cleveland sits today. One decision away from clarity. One decision away from collapse. It's dramatic, yes, but isn't that always the case with the Browns? And through it all, Shedeur Sanders just keeps throwing, keeps completing passes, keeps doing everything right, knowing full well that it might not be enough. He's watching veterans with worse numbers get more reps. He's watching coaches dodge questions about his future. He's watching the Saints call, again, and he's realizing what everyone else is beginning to suspect. talent alone won't save him here. The Browns have a choice. They can either rise above the mess and make the right call, or they can once again become the architects of their own downfall. But history? It's not exactly on their side.